This is 2023's Anyone But You. Warning, spoilers ahead. B makes her way through town in a hurry, and she stops in the coffee shops to use the bathroom. The bathroom is only for customers though, and while B tries to beg for the bathroom instead of waiting in line, Ben notices her and puts on a ruse to get her the bathroom key. This also works as a pickup attempt, and this might be the new thing to do at Starbucks. Who knew you could still pick people up at the coffee shop? While in the bathroom, B calls her friend Haley to tell her about the situation with Ben, but things go from weird to extremely awkward when water sprays all over her jeans. After drying her jeans with a hand dryer, she comes out to thank Ben for helping her out, and just as B almost walks out, Ben finally asks her out. The two of them try to bond over dinner at Ben's place, and after an interesting grilled cheese dinner, the two of them fall asleep together. Come morning time, B tries to sneak out, but she's not that smooth about it. After she leaves, Ben's friend Pete shows up, and meanwhile, B realizes that she left without saying anything to him. Just as she gets to the door, Pete calls Ben out for being in love, and B overhears him telling Pete that she was nothing. Of course, he's just trying to play it cool to make it seem like he's not that attached, but you know how this goes. That's the end of that. 6 months later, Ben and Pete go out to the bar to meet with Claudia and her friend Haley. Oh yeah, this is the same Haley who was talking to B earlier. They're sisters! And look at that! B is here too. They do not hold back, and that's a nice change. The next day, Claudia and Haley send out their wedding invitations for everyone to go to Sydney, Australia, and Ben heads to the airport. After boarding, Ben notices that B is on the same plane, but back in the coach section, and he takes a little time to humiliate her next to her senior citizen neighbor. That night, B tries to go to the bathroom, but after finding out that they're all occupied, she finds Ben sleeping in first class with a cookie sitting in the window. B decides to crawl over him to steal it, but she accidentally hits a button and ends up stuck on top of him. What do you do in this situation? Really get on top of him and bounce around trying to get your shirt off? It might work here, but I promise you that regular people don't sleep like Ben. After the plane lands, Pete meets Ben and B at the airport, and he gives them a ride to the house they're staying at. They seem to forget that they hate each other for a brief moment once they get to the house, and Claudia takes a moment to tell Ben about how she's nervous about the wedding going well. After that, Ben catches up with an old friend, Margaret, who broke his heart years ago, and just as they start to reconnect, she decides to introduce him to her actual partner, Beau. B heads back to the house to deal with some law school paperwork with her leaving the program, but she gets interrupted when her parents show up and check on her. Of course, they try to push B to talk to her old lover, but she just wants a break from it all while she's there. Meanwhile, Ben is going through old pictures of himself and Margaret when they're all called to dinner downstairs. B and Ben should already realize how good they are for each other. Just look at the way they hate each other in similar fashion. If you can get that right, then you'll probably do pretty well. After dinner, the group plays a game of charades, and after a fight, B and Ben manage to set the decorations on fire with a firework. Now, Claudia is worried about the entire wedding being ruined by B and Ben, and her parents think that they have to trick Ben and B into revisiting whatever happened on the night they spent together. The next day, Pete and Claudia's father try to trick Ben with a fake conversation about B's feelings, and Claudia and Haley try to do the same thing with B. B sees right through it, but it doesn't matter because Claudia's mother pulls both of them outside for a group activity. B and Ben decide to be a little more civil as they swim out to a sailboat, but once there, B's parents show up with her ex Jonathan. B decides that it would probably be better for both of them if they try to trick everyone into thinking that they really are getting together now. They could really make this convincing, but they really did this in the most cringeworthy way possible. Better yet, Jonathan pops up, and now this play is basically a rescue mission. This whole wedding party is getting more and more awkward by the minute. While out on the hike, B and Ben try to figure out the particulars of their charade, and after some rather awkward butt grabbing, B finds a spider in Ben's pants and he tosses his clothes over the cliff. Ben ends up wearing her bottoms to get back to the house, and once there, he decides to spend some time teaching B's father how to dive. Of course, B actually appreciates what she sees, and when she comes out, she tries to convince her parents that they really have been dating. Once Ben and B are off on their own, B asks if some of the things he told her were actually true, and he almost tells her that he didn't mean any of the words she overheard all those months ago. Of course things don't go the way they should though, and Ben goes on to have an awkward shower convo with Margaret's man, and B has a touching conversation with Jonathan while playing human-sized chess. Fantastic. We're only halfway. What kind of movie would it be if things were resolved now? Ben spots Bee having a good time with Jonathan, and he goes to catch up with Margaret in the kitchen. Margaret questions Ben about why they ended up breaking up all those years ago, and he points out that it was her decision to break up back then. Margaret realizes that he's not the child she broke up with, and after hearing all of this, Ben goes to Bee's room to explain how they need to change their story so that there's an opening for Margaret to be with him. That evening, the group heads out for the rehearsal dinner, and Ben is a little smitten by Bee when she comes downstairs. Margaret also tries to play her cards right, but she can't help but see some competition in Bee. The group goes out on the boat for dinner and revelry, and Margaret gets pulled away by Beau. Awkwardly, Bee manages to get some alone time with Jonathan, and if I have to hear her parents talk about Jonathan one more time, I might break up with him too. Oh hell, he even dances with them too! Since both of them have something to prove to their respective targets, Ben and Bee hop out onto the dance floor to put on a very sensual showcase, and when it comes time to do a toast, Bee takes Ben to the front of the boat to do one more antic. No judgment, but if someone pulls the Titanic move like this, they're dedicated to some dorky dream of reliving the first romantic movie moment they ever saw. What's worse is the fact that Bee falls into the water right after, and Ben jumps in to try to save her. Now they're going full Titanic. Hopefully it doesn't end the same way. Bee and Ben swim to a nearby buoy to wait for rescue, and they spend the time asking each other why that one night really went the way it did. Now that they've been completely honest with each other about why that night, they agree to go to the opera house on a date. Luckily, Harbor Rescue shows up just then and lifts them off of that little buoy. Of course, Ben is terrified of flying though, and the two of them have to sing Natasha Bedingfield to get him through it. The two of them are given a ride back to the house, and Ben makes both of them grilled cheese sandwiches like that one night they shared together. First kiss time? Yes! Done are the days when we have to wait until the last 30 seconds of the movie for the first kiss. Or first anything, apparently. The two of them share an awesome night together, but once Ben hears the group come home, he sneaks out of the room. Now, Bee feels the same way that Ben did the first night they spent together. In the morning, Bee and Ben spend some time alone with their thoughts, and when they get back to the house, it's time to prepare for the wedding. Bee's job is to go into town to pick up the cake, and Claudia tells her that Margaret has to go with her. Meanwhile, Pete and Ben talk about what Ben is going to choose, and Pete thinks that it should always be Bee at this point. Pete is so sure of it that he hits Ben in the face with a bouquet of roses. At that point, he knows what's going on. Margaret tries to test the waters with Bee, and when she's finally asked if Margaret can have a go with Ben, she hesitates but eventually kind of gives her the go-ahead. Once they get home, Bee's parents ambush her about quitting school, and Bee is furious with Ben for letting the secret out with Pete. Safe to say, the two of them are not on speaking terms at the moment, and the wedding seems to be going south after the dog knocks the wedding cake off of the table. Now that everyone knows that the relationship was a lie, they feel like they have to find a new way to go forward with their own plans, and everyone goes their own way to try to make the most out of the wedding. While preparing, Ben overhears Claudia and Haley bickering about how the event is going, and they eventually wonder why they're even getting married. Time to fix things! Ben recruits Bee to fix their problem, but no one has any idea what's going on, including me at this point. Stop faking it! Just do it! Bee and Ben apologize to Claudia and Haley before heading to the destination wedding, and they play nice until the ceremony is over. At the reception, Bee and her parents manage to talk things out, and in the end, they make up and support one another. On the dance floor, Margaret takes a moment with Ben, but Haley and Claudia notice Bee watching him from the sidelines. Bee tells them that she needs to go, and she does this just as Margaret kisses Ben. Once the kiss is done, Ben tells Margaret that even though he wanted this for so long, it's not what he truly wants anymore. Ah. Then he walks off, but he literally walks in the opposite direction that Bee went in. Damn fool! Go after her! While Ben sits and thinks about things, he notices the rest of the family trying to have loud conversations about Bee and Ben, but Ben doesn't know what to think anymore. After everyone gathers to give him some advice, his choice becomes clear. It's even more clear when he leaps off the cliff and has them call Harbor Rescue. He's going to get some frequent flyer points if he keeps jumping into the water like that. Ben thinks he knows exactly where Bee is, and he has the chopper drop him off at the opera house. Wouldn't you know it? Bee can't believe what she's seeing, but she's happy to see Ben running up to her. They both apologized for everything they've done to each other, but they both acknowledge what they love about each other and how they feel around each other. Of course, the two of them kiss each other and finally feel the happiness they've been suppressing the entire time, and they go back to the wedding just in time for the fireworks. After that, Unwritten is played by the DJ, and a montage of the cast singing the song plays as we see Bea and Ben are as happy as they can be together. Then the credits roll. Definitely a fun rom-com with a fantastic cast. Sydney Sweeney seems to be all the rage lately, and this movie is definitely right up her alley. Give it a shot. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more like this one. Comment what you think I should watch next, and I'll see you in the next video.